Voice of FinTech.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Voice of FinTech live speaker series. Today we're going to talk to Naina Sethi from Magic FinServ in New York. It's a company that provides emerging tech solutions to financial services firms, including buy and sell side firms and enterprise data management firms. And Darko Pilav, who is the head of digital asset in Switzerland and obviously a well-known company in the digital asset space. And Emilie Raffo, who is a well-known speaker on the crypto and blockchain speaker circuit and event circuit in Switzerland. And we're going to talk about her new book as well. So this is going to be fun discussion on the reality check, whether blockchain and digital assets and crypto seize on the opportunity of acceleration of digitalization during the pandemic or not. We'll find out. And then we're going to be entertained by fabulous Irina Pak, who is a founder of More Than Classic and a first violin at Tonhalle in Zurich. So welcome and looking forward. So Naina, my first question is about founders who sometimes they are in love with their tech and they think about tech first and the solution second, and they try to find the use case to fit the technology they love. When you provide services to clients, how does that work? What's your philosophy? Are you thinking about the solution first or technology first and then the use case, or how does that work from your perspective?
So many startups fail because they aren't able to switch gears fast enough based on their clients' feedback, or the founder typically has, a very stubborn idea of what the problem is and fitting the tech into that problem. So at Magic, we've invested a lot of R&D in our AI and ML accelerators based on client conversations and data from clients. So in fact, our board evaluated several AI companies to acquire before we went to market, but we decided against it because I'd say anyone who works in this space will relate to how much customization is required adequately to address a use case after you close the deal, or you do the fancy demo and sort of like wave this magic AI wand. So it's really important to listen to make sure your product fits the challenge, both if you're shopping around for these technologies as well as if you are a provider like ourselves.
Okay, great. And well, talking about digital asset, maybe let's introduce a little bit to the beginners. What do you actually produce, right? I mean, Naina mentioned, DAML, etc., the apps. What is that, and how standardized is it, and how does that interplay with the existing IT infrastructure of the banks that we have here, and also, competing blockchain protocols? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So Digital Asset is a product company. We are a technology provider. And one of our main goals, it sounds somewhat of a common trope, but our main goal is really to break down the silos when companies are cooperating or interacting with each other. We've been seeing kind of, as everyone else, that the kind of those message-based interaction between applications and various use cases just kind of don't hold up anymore, and all those common things like expensive reconciliations are required, etc. So what we set out to do is come up with a way how we can capture kind of obligations and rights and workflows and things like that. So kind of this is the contract part of the smart contract. How we can really capture those, codify them, and then also being able to execute them. Now, one important thing is, though, that what is very clear to us is that there isn't going to be one single winner in the infrastructure space. There is not going to be just Hyperledger Fabric or just Corda or just Ethereum or you can name any one of those. So what we set out to do is make sure that whichever infrastructure you want to use, you can by writing the code once in DAML, in the smart contract language that we created, and then you can run it on the various different infrastructures. And coming back to the question before about how exactly how we approach the interactions with customer, I fully agree with Naina regarding problem first. And this is also how we set out our product to be, that we explicitly tell to our customers, don't think about the technology. You need to first figure out how exactly does your use case work. Let's figure that out first, and then we'll go and see which underlying infrastructure is the best one for you. So often people are coming at first with with the questions like, what is the consensus algorithm that I should be using here and there? And this is a completely wrong level of conversation in the beginning. Something like this goes just very, very towards the very end. Now, this is just, of course, one part to the story. If you have a use case that can run either on Ethereum or Fabric or whatever. So the next thing that we are focusing on right now is allowing for true interoperability between infrastructures. And only then, when you have that, you can have kind of a virtual global network where everyone can interact with everyone else. And this is kind of the holy grail that everyone would like to have. And yeah, this is the next target that we are aiming at. Okay, understood. But obviously, you're in Switzerland, and I think you do work with a lot of incumbents, right? And when I talk to incumbents, some of them are have been quite skeptical. They're saying, look, we don't need blockchain for every little thing. It's been around for 20 years. And all we need to do is digitize. But the enterprise blockchain applications are quite different from the kind of the freestyle movement and the original philosophy of running everything on decentralized ledger, etc. So where do you think are the pros and cons for banks that are, maybe large banks like Credit Suisse and UBS using enterprise blockchain, where they can actually use it and where you can help? You're absolutely right there. And actually, I must say that there are a bunch of use cases that wouldn't even necessarily benefit significantly from a blockchain approach or even a distributed approach. And by the way, this is also why we're making sure that DAML also runs on a centralized database. You can just run it on SQL and still reap the benefits. Now, our idea there is, though, that if you have you are de-risking the first step if you go with technology that people are comfortable with a SQL database, and they can kind of test the waters with that. But people need to go there at their own pace because you can't force everyone to their luck, so to say. You talked about enterprise blockchain and the challenges and the Darko explained, etc. But when we go back to the original roots of blockchain and it was a great buzzword, let's say 2 years ago, and last year was AI, and now I don't know where we are, to be honest. So what do you think about blockchain and its potential as I'm not saying as a buzzword, but as a trend? Is there still a potential, or has it lost some steam, or are you still a believer, and if yes, why?
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that we kind of thought and expected blockchain to save the world, as we say in French, that it was going to save the widow and the orphan, but in the end, now we're kind of disappointed because we had this inflated, impossible expectations. But in the end, I think it's still a cool technology that allows communities to organize themselves, and that itself I think is still very cool. But it's not a completely new idea, right? I mean, if you look, at these cooperative legal structures, in France we use that quite a lot. It's kind of an enterprise that is jointly owned by its stakeholders. So this is the type of things that blockchain embodies, but is just automated and disintermediated. So I think that, you know, maybe some people had crazy expectations, but in terms of doing that, of allowing people, you know, to get together and, you know, create their own organizations and automate certain actions, disintermediate certain actions, I think it can still do that, and that is still super cool. And for example, if you look at local currencies, so this is something that I've really looked at. It's not a huge thing, right? If you look at the lemon in Switzerland or the time dollar in the US, if you look at the vir also in Switzerland, so these local currencies are really cool citizen initiatives. And I think, you know, blockchain and cryptocurrencies are in the continuity of that. I don't think, you know, this has to be a behemoth of, you know, worth billions of dollars. I think it can just be, you know, a technology that allows communities to create, you know, organizations to fit their needs, and new currencies that fit their needs that are unmet with the national currencies. And I think that's already more than enough.
Right. And in your book, you also talk about mobile money and Libra and the kind of commitment to fight the poverty. And basically, that also leads to one of the use cases or the themes behind this digital or decentralized economy and blockchain, which is improving financial inclusion. So how does that improve financial inclusion, and why is it important?
Well, I think financial inclusion is hugely important, just because, you know, financial exclusion keeps poor people poor. And that's a huge problem, because, you know, if you don't have access to a bank account, you know, obviously you don't have access to digital money, for example. So what does that mean? It means that you have to store all your wealth, your wealth in cash, which, you know, kind of puts you in danger of theft or whatever. So puts your person in danger, but also puts, you know, your wealth in danger, because the problem is obviously that the countries that are the most touched by financial exclusion are the countries that are also touched by, you know, huge inflationary episodes. So it's the people who, you know, can the least afford it, who have to, you know, go through the consequences of inflation. So that's, you know, already one huge thing of financial exclusion. But also, you know, people who don't have access to the banking system, the financial system, don't have access to credit. And, you know, credit is a huge, in French, c'est un ascenseur social. It's a social elevator.
And now I think I would like to play for you another piece. And originally it comes from Baroque time, but it has a modern touch. But I think you will all recognize the piece. So enjoy. Just a quick question. Is the sound okay?
Yeah.